Hi there, I'm Doug de Vries. I'm going to play some Altamira Guitars for you, 4 jazz standards. So that was Autumn Leaves in B minor. Really nice key for guitar. I mean, the thing about jazz on nylon string guitar is I think it's a very natural fit. If you come from classical guitar and or if you're a jazz guitarist and you want to improve your fingerstyle. Jazz and fingerstyle I think are a good match. Normally, you're a jazz guitarist, you would use a plectrum because you're really in a band where you're up against it with volume. But we've got the beauty of these delicate instruments. The guitar has a natural soft volume and it really suits a fingerstyle approach where you can get all the lines and the counterpoint and the harmonic intricacies of jazz. B minor I chose for Autumn Leaves. Really because I get a lot of open strings, so sometimes my key choice is guided by open strings, availability. Often Autumn Leaves is played on the guitar, at least, in E minor, which will give you also good options. So there's the melody in E minor. I prepared some separate melody and chords for you in an exercise to get you used to, if you want to learn jazz standards, it's really, really important to jazz players like myself that you learn the melody deeply and so that you have it really living within you. So remember, the melody starts. Pardon my singing, but it's important to internalise the melody if you are going to tackle these tunes, because once we leave the theme and we go onto the improv, a melody is a great way to keep your bearings in the song and to really truly serve the song. So that's my advice, and there's a little exercise, separate melody chord exercise. Now, when we get to improvisation on classical guitar, and you're not an improviser, it's not your experience, having come from set pieces, and I know this very well. I studied a bit of classical guitar myself, and did a fair bit of the repertoire, but at the same time I was playing jazz and working as a jazz guitarist. And when you come to improvise, it's always very hard to talk about where do we start. Most people will say there's scales and chords and their relationship. That's true. I would say that's a given. We basically need to know our keys. As a classical guitar player, you might have studied scales and you think, well, when am I ever going to need them? Apart from perhaps a big run, scale run or an arpeggio run in a concerto. To show off your technique and your facility to get from one end of the guitar to the other. But in jazz, we tend to think of scales as no real set pieces where they're just material we could draw from. So scales and chords are related. This is a natural sort of relationship. So if we look at, let's say, the first chord of Autumn Leaves, A minor 7, and then we go to D9 and the G major 7. So we have set up 2-5-1 chord progression. That is the second chord, fifth chord, first chord of G. that is scale of G. But so what I've done there is play all scale of G, but on each starting point. So A minor 7, that's the scale of G starting from A. Scale of G starting from D. Scale of G. But you don't need to know them as separate entities. They were all one entity. So when your very first explorations, when you jump in, you say, well, this all belongs to the one key. Let's find where all the notes of G major are, and then let's so that was just the improvising on G major, pure and simple, finding little turns of phrase, and over time you will be able to hear the harmony that it relates to as you plant those chords in your ears. And because improvising is all about hearing the oral moments that happen in a song. So yeah, always a very simple place to start, but it takes adventure. So if it's just exploring and doing them fast, that's just wearing you out. So you don't really need to do that. What you're really looking for is beauty in and trying to hear your way around. I'll give you another exercise if you're brave. Start on the note D, and now proceed. Play Happy Birthday. I will do it for you. This will improve your ear. If you make yourself do something from a random starting point, let's choose a random starting point. F sharp, okay. Third finger. All right. These are little games you can play, and of course you can do that with any tune that is well known, it's very popular. If your ears are tuned in and you develop that relationship between your ear and your instrument, you will be able to move to the notes you hear. Over time, this comes with practice. Technique is good and tone is important, but in jazz sometimes we must serve the moment. I think in classical guitar we're very much concerned with the tone at all times, but we don't always have time to prepare, and so if, at times I don't have a classical guitar sound, I'm not too, concerned with that, because as a jazz musician, I'm thinking about movement and mobility and fluency with the ideas, and sometimes the over concern with technique would get in the way, and of course it would be very difficult. But I do try and achieve a good tone, and these guitars, even the more basic models like this one, do very well to get your. If you came from the other side, for instance, if you're a jazz player getting to know nylon string, these are very good entry-level guitars for you as a jazz player to improve your finger style and your clarity with the left hand and get good results. So in the sentimental mood, the beautiful Duke Ellington theme, there are so many iconic versions of this. There's the Duke and John Coltrane arrangement, and great version. I mean, Duke's music, I mean, that version in particular reminds me that in Duke's music, it's ever evolving. You might find the music set in the sheet music, the melody and the chords, but Duke Ellington was the sort of musician that would you know, continually, you know, let the tunes evolve, his own compositions. And I did what a lot of jazz players would do, and that is play the same section. We have an A form, and so each A section is arranged slightly differently. So I've done a slightly old-fashioned swing. I wouldn't say, you know, there's nothing wrong with old-fashioned. Let me put it that way. It's more of a swing version that I've heard with Django Reinhardt. I think in the original sheet music you'll see chords like so D minor with the descending line, D minor, major 7, minor 7. This contains that, but it changes the bass line. So B flat minor 6. You'll see them on the PDFs, and you'll see I'm working my way down. I'm looking for all the linear possibilities. So we've got I had to put the melody down there, so now my inner voice has moved down an octave. For the second, so I take a bass line down from B natural. So we have this sort of like a B half diminished implied here. So it's like relates to D minor sixth, and B half diminished are pretty much the same thing. So, and then use a minor 7th there. So that sort of skips a couple of decades. It sounds a bit more postmodern jazz. I change register. So change in register gives me, you know, it opens up the other end of the guitar because it is getting a little dark down there. I like it for that reason. I like the low sounding voicings, and when you're on your own playing jazz on a nylon string, you can use and really exploit that region. When you're in bands, you've pretty much got to stay out of there because things will get too muddy with the other instruments around, the piano and the bass and even the drums. So, but now I retreat upwards. And when you're making arrangements or improvising, it's good to vary the registers of the melody. So if you are learning the melody of a tune like this, it's good to know the melody in more than one register. So I finished that second part of the second A section, and then on to the bridge. In the bridge, I use a little technique in the arrangement where I separate the melody and the chords. Okay, so that's the melody. And then punctuate. That gives a nice sense of swing It's something that, I've long picked up from piano players, working with piano players and listening very closely to what they do, and knowing that one day I can go back, I'll go back home and when I've got my nylon string guitar and I can play the fingerstyle. When you're on the bandstand with a piano player, there's really not much room for you to add those kinds of textures. There's our B flat minor, 6th chord. Change it to a dominant. Still on the 6th degree. And now we're on 2 chord of our D flat key. You've got to know your flat keys when you play guitar, particularly jazz on the guitar. So I played Sentimental Mood on this Altamira homage to Torres. Torres style guitar. Very delicate, very sweet though. A good choice for this. Okay, I just heard the playback of the very ending, the cadenza. As we got to the end, I'll try my best to remember what happened there. So we have so here's a classic cadenza, which we have a lot in jazz too. This is our final cadence. But on the cadenza, when I got to the penultimate chord, so that gave me the. So I have the altered C7 chord, which is a 13 flat 9. C13 flat 9 was very low, so it has a. So in essence, it's I'm playing an A major arpeggio over a B flat. And then relating that to a C7. So we have a C, B flat, A triad. So a 13 flat 9 is one of those chords that has an upper structure. And as you get to know the altered chords, because we know the basic chords, but this is an altered chord where we have A built upon a C7. So I'll try it again. It's C7. Them together with my A triad. So I can think freely, I'll plant the B flat or the C. Then I can show off like you would on a classical guitar to play all your fun A major tricks. But and that implies another altered scale, which is a B flat melodic minor, another scale that you must know. Or diminished scale fits well there. Also, and I went back to, from there, resolved to the F major. So somewhere in there, I outlined in that cadenza, I outlined a F major 7th, and then I went back to the B flat minor. This is more like a plagal amen to finish it off. B flat minor 6, and then a little bit of a lick, I suppose, a little, I would say. A little caricature, a little motif, melodic motive, which has a sort of a slight resemblance to the opening melody, and that gave me sort of the clue to sort of wind it up as I did. Round Midnight. So this one, it's a classic from Thelonious Monk, piano player. It's a classic piano piece. This is slightly different to the standard jazz, the jazz standard. This is what we refer to as the jazz originals. These are new compositions by jazz musicians. Talk about scales. There's a whole tone scale, but he likes to keep referring to in this one as a sort of a holding pattern for this waiting pattern before we resume the themes. It's always a good idea to practice your whole tone scales because they are not easy on the guitar. They don't lay easily and under the fingers like a lot of other scales, like major scales. Okay, I think he does one in the arrangement, which I didn't do, but he. Yeah, so they're very tricky to execute. Of course, he's using two hands, so we've got to. But it's a good idea to get learn the layout of whole tone scales. There's only two of them, so one has 6 of the 12 notes, and the other one has the other 6. So this is on the dominant chord of this particular song in E flat minor, 6 flats, and B flat 7 is the dominant. But he likes to add a flat 5, and so B flat 7, flat 5, that's basically like an open invitation. It's like laying out the red carpet for a whole tone scale because it cuts the octave in half. I played this on the N1. This is a double top guitar. Very sweet sounding. It was very particularly very noticeable in really nice high register, very sweet and very well balanced. And so very good for playing big, complicated dissonant chords. Jazz, it's full of dominant seventh chords, and the dominant seventh chord is the sort of the window out of which you'll see all the great possibilities of altered scales, and so we talked about the whole tone scale. Now people often talk about this altered scale. So in this key we have B flat 7, but then when we say altered, we mean we alter the fifth, so that the fifth becomes either raised fifth or a flat fifth, or we have added to that, we have a flat 9, so B flat 7, flat 9, sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 9, they go hand in hand. And so if you see one, you can bet your life there'll be the other one will be in the mix. With this scale, so I'm a bit of an outlier amongst jazz educators where they'll talk about this as the altered scale from B flat. It's the scale from the B flat, which has the flat 9 and the sharp 9 and the flat 5 and the sharp 5. But it looks suspiciously like a B minor, a melodic minor. So ever since I was very young, I thought, okay, that scale's a minor scale, but it's just built from a half step above the dominant that we are applying it to, and that scale, the B melodic minor scale, gives me all of those alterations: flat 5, sharp 5, flat 9, sharp 9. So it's kind of like a hamburger with the lot, and that's where you'll get a lot of cadenzas, you'll get a lot of very interesting sounds, because you're really getting all those alterations fed to you at once. A good thing to keep in mind, for me it's always been better to think of that minor scale, because I already know the scale, rather than learn a whole new one. I never think of scales in terms of their modes. It's just 7 ways to say the same thing. It seems like a lot of unnecessary work. It's not something I think about consciously when I'm playing, but when I was beginning, I was like, oh, now it's the minor from the flat 9, or from a half step above the root. Okay, so if that helps you, I'm glad, because it certainly helped me and made me understand those alterations very succinctly. Summertime, B minor. This is the original key. I do have a piano reduction of the orchestral version of Porgy and Bess, and it has Summertime, all the features of the orchestra reduced to the piano arrangement, and I basically took that and did what I could, similar to what I did with the Monk transcription of Round Midnight. I took Summertime and tried to fit all the features. It starts with, and then the very, tried to make it as orchestral as I can, and with the extra range, this is an Altamira 7-string, this is a good entry-level model, and it sounds really beautiful, and with the low B tuning, perfect for B minor. So and so the orchestra goes like this, it goes like that. So somehow with this rising and falling minor 6 chord, B minor 6, C sharp minor 6, back to B minor 6. So we've got to fit the melody around that. So so easy. That gave me a little way out. So all of these lines, they're all in the arrangement. So it's really, really lovely to play Summertime. I've always loved playing this song, particularly in the slow, under the heat wave and the feeling of a heat wave. I always felt like this song really needs to be played slow. We hear lots of very bright up tempo versions of this song, which are also very nice to hear. Because summer is also a happy association for people, but I also like the heavy feeling of this orchestration that comes from the Gershwin original. Thanks for listening. This has been great fun, a real honour to present to you some of my arrangements and improvs on these wonderful guitars, really. A range from the high end, entry levels. I encourage you to go out and play all the music you can. I'm a jazz musician at heart that came to the classical guitar, fell in love with that. I just wanted to blend it all. I just wanted to do it all. I went to Brazilian guitar. I just think it's all a great mix. Steel string guitar also, fingerstyle, plectrum. Embrace it all. Hope you enjoy it.